going to try to make a successful recording of the MiG-3 with voice and everything. So this will be the fourth attempt at it. A little bit about the MiG-3. As you can tell by its survivability, this is a fully upgraded fighter. This is the MiG-3 frame, which is what you want, which gives it a little more survivability. Even with this, it's on the south side of really acceptable, but it is what it is. The two 50 caliber machine guns is what they are. And those you want as quickly as you can get them. And from that point on, these are the base ability. And with this, it gets a gun armament that's fairly darn decent. It's all machine gun too, so you really don't have to worry about overheating very much. And then you want the two speed upgrades because this is a aircraft that's going to be optimized at a very early tier 5, for high altitude operations, which means that a lot of the things you're going to be fighting are going to be fast. So it does a pretty good job about that. Let's go on and load, and then we can go a little bit into the history of the aircraft. It was designed as a high altitude fighter, which it did fairly well, despite some teething problems. And it had the unfortunate issue that the engine chosen for it was the same one that was used in the Sturmovik IL-2. Well, as one can imagine, if you have a high altitude fighter, it was a fighter that was in search of a mission that didn't exist. Most combat took place at low to mid altitude period with in the Eastern Front. And so most Soviet fighters were, of course, optimized to deal with that particular regime of altitude. And why would you do anything else? So this was very much not the Western Front where you're scouting B-17s at 23, 27, 30,000 feet. This is a case where most of your combat was expected to take place, 18,000 feet or lower, and in most cases much lower. Why that was, I don't have a clue, but it's axiomatic by this time. Every air historian that's talked about it has told me the same story, so it was a case of a fighter that really wasn't needed. They produced over 300 of these aircraft, but eventually came down to, do you want IL-2s or do you want this aircraft we don't have much use for? So most of these aircraft went back to back areas where they performed guard functions for the back areas in case they had high altitude interceptors, which they were relatively decent at. The Soviets quite correctly made the decision that we need IL-2s rather than high altitude fighters, given what we're seeing so far, and of course proceeded to produce them in numbers. As Stalin said, the Soviet army needs the IL-2 like it needs bread and breath. And so it turned out to be the case. Now you'll notice that the firepower on this is quite formidable. It's not very long range, but I'll take effective over long range any day of the week, especially on an aircraft that will move this quickly. Now we need to get moving as a group over towards this airfield, and I'm going to expend a little boost getting there. I hope we can recover it on the way. And let the rest of the group take care of the mop-up duties. I think we've got a fight ahead of us here. And I'm not sure that we're going in here prematurely. In fact, I'm pretty darn sure that we are. So we'll pick on the high altitude aircraft and hopefully we don't have any boom zoomers ready to take me down. He's already dragging me down at low altitude where I do not want to be. Smart move on his part, but we'll head back towards our air base, our capture zone where I have more friendly fighters. And hopefully take this guy down. And the Focke-Wulf 190A-1 promptly sees to me. Well, you can control your attitude, but you can't control your group. And they should have moved in to support us better than they did, but they did not, and that's life. Let's get back to where we need to be here and get to battle where we can help our teammates out. So speed is pretty good on this thing. I'll make sure that I... oh, what a shame. And I see we're not fighting for the airbase, so we won't have any regens close, and that's unfortunate. This 209 V9 is one dangerous son of a gun, and I may be wrong or it may be a misprint, but I am seeing that as a tier 8 fighter. Maybe I'm wrong. Somebody let me know if you find out something different than I know, because it's just acts like a tier 8 fighter, though I've not been in tier 8 yet. I don't own any. And I'm shooting at 3,000 feet. Maybe I should pay a little more attention. Okay, got that taken care of. Now I really need to get back here and get this fighter base, hopefully. We have a case of mass confusion here. We're just not going to cooperate. I don't know if we can break this. It's an awful lot of it. And hopefully your teammates will jump in. They did not. And there we are. This may be a tough row to hoe, this particular game, but I did want you to get a good look at the MiG-23, what it's capable of. Typically, you want this to be as high altitude as you can get away with, and then go after heavy fighters. The team just keeps, as you can look at by the radar screen, keeps scattering out, and so they're not having a whole lot of effect. And this is a game where it's very difficult to carry your team. So I don't know how this one's going to turn out. A little bit more about the MiG-3. Survivability is okay, but it's just barely okay. Firepower is good, speed's good, and what it excels at more than anything else is chasing down enemy heavy fighters, whereas what you really want to spend your time doing. Unfortunately, we've had to do too much of everything but. It looks like everybody in the known free world is heading back to the airbase to take it back from us.
Be advised, the enemy is concentrating forces near the airfield.
And Altfried. Huh. I keep wondering about that fighter. If you've seen this thing in operation, it is something else. I'm a fanboy, by the way. I'm not upset about it. I just wish I had one. pretty sure Bert down there in that 109 is trying to kill my teammate, and I would very much like to stop him. Hopefully that will. Now, I did mention that what you really want to do with this is hunt heavy fighters, but that's hard to do when you have a fighter above and behind him. So, chasing after a heavy fighter that takes a while to kill is going to be difficult at best. So what we're trying to do here is support our teammates and keep them from getting killed. Something I encourage everybody to do: protect your teammates for the love of God, for your own sake, not for anybody else's sake, for your own. The faster you kill and keep your team alive, the far less painful this game gets to you. Well, don't see that every day, but I did it just a game ago and had to kill an entire recording out of it. Alright, so what I mentioned is this thing is really good at is killing heavy fighters. We did not get to demonstrate that, but I think you got a good look at what a MiG-3 can do. It's a good quick fighter. It does better at high altitude than it does at low altitude. To the degree that you can, you want to be at high altitude. And it is one that is simply excellent at getting on the back of a P-38, a Beaufighter, a ME-110. Those things are just meat to this. Once you get behind them, they can't shake you, and your firepower is enough to really hurt them in a hurry. We'll take a look at its status here. Excuse me. High altitude performance is something you really want to pay attention to. Altitude, how well is it going to do at altitude? It does well. Maneuverability, it's pretty good. Not the best, not near the best, but there are fighters out there with over 1,000, and few, one or two with well over 1,000. Airspeed is pretty decent when fully upgraded. It's not, you're not going to mistake it for a Mustang, but it's pretty darn good. Its armament is very good. And survivability is, so-so. Comparison, another high altitude fighter that does really well is probably this is a Frederick, which is tier 6, but survivability is better. Gun armament's not as good. Airspeed, though, is easily 50 kilometers per hour faster. Maneuverability is right up with you, and altitude performance is better. So that'll give you a measure, but this is I'm comparing a tier 5 to a tier 6. If you look at the things that are going to be more in your tier 5 range, Mitsubishi Zero, fully upgraded. Again, you're looking at 1126. You don't want to get in a turning contest with this. Altitude performance, though, is sadly lacking in compared to that MiG-3. So if you get into it with one, make a high-speed pass and drag them up to high altitude and kill them. Airspeed is just nowhere near you. KI-43, getting a case in point. I think you get where I'm going here. Lightning. It's much faster than you are, so once he gets to get ahead of speed, don't bother chasing him. Maneuverability is nowhere near. He can't get you off his tail no matter what you do. And altitude performance is pretty close to your, as I better than yours. And survivability, he's got another 100 points in hand, so he's tougher than you. Do not get into a ramming contest with him. He'll make you pay for it. Okay, so we did pretty good with that, and we won. What more are you going to ask? Did a summary thing here real quick. Came in 2. We sailed in before. Made a decent amount of silver off of this. Got some good experience on this, and got some free experience on it. So we're doing pretty good there. And that's basically it. That's the aircraft. Hope you enjoyed it. and we'll still talk to you soon. As always, remember to like the video if you like what I've done here, and to put and subscribe, because I'm a new provider. So the more subscriptions I get, the better they look to Google, and it helps me stay around. Thank you now. I appreciate you very much.